What's up, Podsters? Today we are talking about the dreaded, the oftentimes heard, the no bueno, I'm just not that into it. You thought I was going to say I'm just not that into you, didn't you? Do you remember that book and the movie? There was a book, there was a movie. It started with a Sex and the City episode. Anyway, what we're talking about today, we're not talking about relationships. We're talking about when you are just not into what you're doing professionally. Could be a job, could be your business, could be your career. And what we're going to talk about today is if you're temporarily just not into it. I will talk at the end about if you are consistently seeing that you are not into what you're doing. I want you to know you get to decide anytime you want how you want to be spending your days. There are many experts out there. I'm one of them, but there are many experts out there who can help you do that. You get to decide if you are in a miserable job and you don't like it and you want to make a change. There are many people that can help you do that. In fact, my Do the Thing retreat on November 7th and 8th is exactly who it's for. But I'll link that in the show notes because today we're going to talk about if you're temporarily not into it or if you're just not that into it. I'm going to tell you why this is top of mind. So I was speaking with a friend of mine and I live on Cape Cod, and in the summer there's so many fun things to do. And in the winter, there's still fun things to do, but it slows down significantly and it's just not the same. It's an island. So we're on this island. So obviously summer is when people get their boats out, we go fishing, we have outdoor concerts, we have all the things. And I was talking to a friend of mine and she said, yeah, very casually on the phone. She said, "Yeah, I think I'm in pre-retirement mode." And this is a woman who owns her own business and is phenomenal at what she does. She is going to retire in a few years, but not like in the next 6 months. And as a matter of fact, I was with her about 2 weeks ago and we went on a day trip and we bumped into a bunch of people in her industry, and she's like a baller in this industry. Everyone knew her. They were into it. She knew about all the events, and it was she's not pre-retiring. So I said, "Wait a minute, what?" And she said, "Yeah, I mean pre-retirement. I'm just not into it. I'm just not into working." And I laughed and I said, "Of course you're not into working right now. Look around. Look around. We have, I think, 7 beaches here, maybe 9, but at least 7. She happens to own a boat. We all come out of the woodwork in the summer. We have visitors. It's just, this is when we have a great time and we relax and we holiday, as they say." So it got me thinking about, and I said to her, "You're not pre-retiring. You're just not into it. So, okay, let's talk about that." It got me thinking about the different phases that we go through. And sometimes we're not into it and we would like to be. I'm not saying we should be, because maybe there's a reason why you're not. When you're not into it and you want to be, I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do to get yourself back into alignment with how you feel you should be showing up professionally. Okay. So, number 1, know and leverage your peak productivity. Here's what I mean by that: when you are most productive. I'm a morning person. I get up with the sun, and sometimes, like this time of year, that's 4:30 in the morning. So it's a little extreme. I'll usually go back to bed till around 5:30, but I'm a morning person. I'm incredibly productive in the morning. I do more things before 8 o'clock than many, many people do all day. I am on fire in the mornings. The flip side of that is that after like 1 p.m. or 2 p.m., forget it. I can barely even cross things off a list. It is not good. It's actually it's not a character flaw, but it is what it is. That is a big valley for me. In fact, my old team, and I know some of you are listening, used to talk among themselves, and they would share stories about, like, yeah, whatever you do, don't call Nancy after 2 because she's not going to be able to give you any good direction, which is accurate. So, what do? I leverage the morning times. Now, here's what I mean by that. When there are fun things to do around me, which is almost all the time here in the summer on Cape Cod, I do not schedule them until the afternoons. And that could be something as simple as going for a long walk with Danny on the beach. I try to do them in the morning, early in the morning, so I can get my exercise in. And also, if I have something important that I know I need to really be fully present for, I will move that to the afternoon when I really don't need to think. if I have a 9 o'clock appointment, and I have been having a lot of those lately, which I think is a little strange, also because I book my own schedule. So I don't know why I keep booking all these 9 a.m. appointments, but I do. If I have a 9 o'clock appointment, or let's say I have a meeting from 9 to 10 or 9 to 11, I know that after that meeting, it's going to be 11, maybe 11:30. I may be a little hungry. I may have a snack. Next thing you know, it's 1 p.m. And what happens at 1 p.m., Podsters? I'm drunk. So if I have a 9 a.m. meeting, I will get up a little earlier and do what I know I need to do before the meeting. Here's how this ties into you not being into it. If I didn't do that, I'm going to be even less motivated than usual in the afternoon, and I'm not going to do what I would like to do. So when you know you're not into it, you're already at a disadvantage because you're not into it. So how can you make sure that you have the best circumstances so that you can actually show up and do it, or you can actually show up and do what you need to do while you're not into it? And one of those is to leverage your peak, know and leverage your peak productivity. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to show up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed when you're not into it. You're not, but you're going to be able to function and get things done and not have I'm not into it turn into a situation where, 2, 3, 4 weeks goes by, you're still not into it, and now there's some performance issues either in your business or in your work. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, I was looking all over for this expression. I couldn't find it, but I think I'm close to it. Sweep your own porch is what I is what I want to say. And that is a very old expression. I hope I got it right. If I didn't, please shoot me a note, DM me, hit me up on the Spotify. I'm going to add a spot for you to leave comments. And what that means is what you need to do to thrive. And this is very, very important to me. If you are an OG or you've been here a while, you know that we are all about thriving over here at Unmute Yourself, the podcast. In fact, I even have a thrive list. And if you're wondering what that is, I'm going to link in the show notes. I have a list of things I can do to kind of bring myself back to me and to set myself up so that I'm thriving. For example, took a little sip of water there. That's a great example. For example, drink some water, get some sun on my face, catch a sunset. If it's winter, drink a tea. If it's summer, drink a green juice, try a new recipe, clean my closets, hang out with my granddaughter. There's all different things that I do when I want to kind of reconnect and thrive. So my point is, you know what you need to do in order to thrive. And in the absence of those things that you love to do, you will continue to create a downward spiral of not being into it. What comes along with knowing what you need to do to thrive is knowing what you need or knowing what happens when you're off your game. So here's what I mean by that. Or knowing what puts you off of your game. What's the opposite of thrive? What leads to unthriving or feeling listless or not interested or not engaged. And when I say sweep your own porch, I mean, make sure that you're taking care of yourself, like the oxygen mask on the airplanes. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. I'm going to give you an example. So it's summertime. As I mentioned, we have a lot of people coming through our home, which is great. And this is why we have a house on the beach. We want a lot of people to come visit. So the other day we had some guests here, our family, and everyone was getting ready to go to the beach. And I was a little tweaked because the house was a mess. I mean, it was really a mess. There were two young children. There was stuff everywhere. There were dirty dishes in the sink. There were wet towels. They weren't, they were outside, but they weren't really organized. I felt out of sorts. And one could argue, just go to the beach, Nancy. What's the big deal? However, because we have a constant stream of guests here, I'm not on vacation and I still need to live my life and I still need to be productive. So everybody was rushing out the door to go to the beach. And I said, you know what? Why don't you guys go? I will follow behind you in less than an hour. It was like maybe 25 minutes that I was behind them. You guys go. That way we'll have two cars at the beach. I can stay here and kind of straighten stuff up and do a couple things I need to do, my own little daily housekeeping. And by housekeeping, I mean mental housekeeping, whatever. And so I did. And I took like 25 minutes to get everything straightened and organized and in the state that I need it to be in and would like it to be in, so that I feel good and I feel good about myself and I feel good about my life. So I did that. I put myself first. I swept my own porch, so to speak. I put my own life jacket on, or my own oxygen mask on. And you want to know what? First of all, no one cared. Second of all, by the time I got to the beach, they weren't even done setting up. So it's not like I missed anything. And I was able to really be fun and present at the beach because I wasn't thinking about all of the things I had to do or wanted to do when I got back home. Okay, the last item here is to step out when you want to step out. And what I mean by that is, and this is the conversation I had with my friend. She said, I'm just not that into it. I said, okay, look around you. It's a beautiful sunny day. You're on beautiful Cape Cod. Take the day off. Now, she works for herself. So, those of us that work for ourselves, we are able to do that if we want to. Keeping in mind, when we don't work, I don't care how much of a support team you have. When I don't work, my work suffers, and that's okay. If I want to take a week off, a month off, 2 years ago, I took the month of July off, and that really impacted my business. I was able to recover and build it back up, but you're the only you have. So if you're going to take a significant amount of time off, just understand what comes with that, regardless of your support team. If you work for a company, you may or may not be able to do that. You may be able to say, hey, I'm going to take a mental health day, or I'm going to take an hour and go for a walk around the parking lot, or whatever the case may be. I would suggest that you can find some way to step out. Maybe you go outside at lunch, get a little sun on your face. Maybe one of the things that I used to love to do before I left corporate America was walking meetings, because I wanted to be outside. I wanted the fresh air. I wanted the exercise. And someone would say, hey, can you meet? And I would say, sure. Do you mind if we walk and talk? Great. It's a great way to multitask, by the way. Walk and listen to your podcast or whatever. Anyway, so my point is, find a way that you can chill for as long as you think you need to. The danger there is, if you find yourself needing to do this a lot, then that's a signal that it's time for a change. And I'll get onto that in a minute. So this is another case where you can take out your Thrive list, right? If you're saying, I'd like to step out of my grind for a minute, or I'm not that into it, okay, honor that. It's temporary. Nobody is 1,000% motivated every day, all day. No one. We're in the middle of the Olympics right now. They are highly motivated people, Olympic athletes. They are also highly disciplined people. Discipline is what gets you across the finish line, because you're not going to be motivated every day. That's okay. All right, I'm not motivated today. What's on my plate? What can I move? What can I push? Where could I find an hour? Where could I find 2 hours? Maybe you take a week. My business coach just took 3 months off and went to Europe. Okay, that's a whole nother story. And good for her, because she came back raring to go. I mean, that's a little extreme, but hey, if you can do it, great. So chill, get some sunlight on your face, see friends, have a mini adventure, whatever you need to do. Sometimes if you are not into it, and you're an introvert, you might need to simply sit and be quiet. And that might be a day, it might be 2 days. Again, I say this knowing that not all of us have the luxury of not reporting to anyone. You might report to someone, and I would suggest that you can say, hey, I'd like to take a couple hours, or I'd like to cut out early today, or I'm going to come in a little later. You know how to manage your schedule. And I have spoken with many of you recently who have tried this. And I actually had a phone call with somebody earlier this week, and she talked about work-life blending, but she talked about putting herself and her family first, and how it made a significant impact on her happiness and her work. So all I'm saying is, step out for a minute if you are just not that into it. Okay. So I want to talk about, those are the three things if you're temporarily not into it. I want to talk about if you are finding yourself not into it and it's been a longer time than you would like. This is a sign, and you know you better than anybody. So I'm not saying to panic or hit the panic button. I'm saying that if you're not into it for a significant length of time, it is probably, and I don't know this unless we talk, it is probably time for a change. And I can tell usually within about 30 seconds of talking to someone who tells me that they like to change careers or they'd like to level up their business, whatever the case may be, I can tell usually within about 30 seconds if they are going to actually do it. And the people that listen to that little whisper, and you've probably heard the Oprah quote. At first, it's a whisper, then it becomes maybe a shout or something like that, and then it becomes a roar. So if you listen to the whisper, you can start making moves, and you can start making moves on your terms. That could be getting together your networking list. That could be amping up your LinkedIn presence or profile. That could be attending my Do the Thing retreat in November, November 7th and 8th. This is exactly who this is designed for, is people who are ready to actually stop thinking and start doing the thing. There's a link in the show notes. Early bird pricing ends probably about a week after you're hearing this. You can simply start thinking about, if this is new to you, if you're just starting to feel a little uncomfortable with how not into it you are, you can start thinking about what your life might look like if you were to make this change. And there are many, many people out there that can help you do that. There are books that can help you do that. This podcast can help you do that. If you go back in the podcasts that I've recorded, every single one-on-one coaching tool I use, I have talked about in this podcast and is available to you for a download. So take a look through all the old titles, see if there's something you think you might like, and listen to it. So here's what happens when you start really thinking about what your life might look like if you make the change. If you have been not into it for a little too long and you're not comfortable with the feeling, when you start to visualize what your life would look like on the other side, it becomes more real and you start taking actions to get there. And that we are all about action over here at Unmute Yourself, the podcast. Here's one thing I want to leave you with. I was at the grocery store today and I went to get some milk, oat milk. You may not be surprised. I went to get some milk and the expiration date was October, late October. And I said, whoa. So yes, we're in the middle of August. Yep, we are. Fall seems like it's a long way away. It is not. And if you are having this feeling and you are not comfortable with the feeling and the feeling has been happening for too long, I'm going to tell you right now, Podsters, if you wait until the fall, you're going to get caught up in the fall frenzy. Then it's going to be the holidays. Then it's going to be New Year's and everybody's out looking to reinvent themselves. So if you think you're ready, now is probably the time to start taking some action. So, Podsters, I leave you with the three things if you are temporarily not into it. 1, know and leverage your peak productivity. 2, sweep your own porch. You know what you need to do to thrive. And 3, take a step out. It's okay. Not everybody is motivated every day, all day. Give yourself a little break and then come back next week and listen to next week's episode, which is going to be fire. So until then, Podsters, peace out.